Hello, I'm Sarah, welcome back. Today I'm here to talk you through how we're going to sew up our variable star block. So this block is absolutely beautiful, your traditional star, which has got some half square triangles in there and some squares. So we're going to put this together using our regular piece method. In the pattern, you've also got the templates to use English paper piecing and foundation paper piecing. If you want a tutorial on how to do the English paper piecing, I'll pop a little link below, and the same with the foundation piecing, I will pop a link below to talk you through how to use those. So without further ado, let's hop on over to the overhead camera and let me talk you through how we're going to get this variable star block sewn up. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've gotten my shapes pre-cut as laid out in the pattern instructions. So if you want to take part, there is a link below for the pattern as well, where all of the sizes are available. So we've got our light squares, our dark squares, our dark square, larger dark square, and our rectangles. What I've done with the dark squares is I've drawn a line from tip to tip, and I'll put a little link below of the marker pen that I like to use when I'm doing this. It's interchangeable and it's got a few different colours in there, so you can pick the right colour for your fabric. So do that on the reverse of all of the dark triangles. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start making some flying geese units. So we're going to pop our light squares and our large dark square to one side for now. We're going to get one of our light rectangles and one of our dark squares, and we're going to place that exactly in the corner here. So you will see that the light rectangle is just bigger than the dark square along the bottom side, and now that's done on purpose to give you a little bit of a wiggle room ready for when we square up our flying geese, just in case your cutting or your sewing is a little bit off. So we're matching it up along the top edge here, paying particular attention to the direction of the line that I've drawn. So what I want you to do now is I want you to sew a seam to this side of the line. So we're always sewing, when we're making flying geese unit, we're always sewing to the side that we're going to trim off, the waist side. So sew to the point. So what I want you to do is I want you to sew a line just ever so slightly to the left of this line here. So I will go ahead and I will do that with all of my units, and then I will show you just how close I want you to get to that line, and then we will repeat the same for the opposite side. So when I'm constructing flying geese units, I like to use this open toe foot here so I can really see that line and I haven't got anything obstructing, or I haven't got a line protruding from the 1/4 inch foot either. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew just to the left of this line here. There you go, so you can see how close that stitching line is to the pencil line. It's just a little bit off, 2 mils. So I want you to do that with all of your flying geese units along this side here, and then I will join you at the iron ready for our next stage. Okay, so I've done that with all of the blocks, and now I'm over at the ironing station. So at this point, what you want to do is you want to get one of your flying geese units and you want to fold that triangle back, just checking that it covers all of the fabric behind. Okay, so if you're happy that that does, then you can go ahead and you can give that a press. So I'm using the Also iron here. We have got these back in stock now, so if you would like one as well, I will pop a link below. I absolutely love this iron. It's got an automatic shut off if you don't touch it for half an hour, so it's really safe. As soon as you take your hand off, it's got legs on and it lifts up, so you don't have to keep upending the iron. Really good for patchwork as well. And you will notice with my patchwork that I never steam. I never put water in the iron, whereas when I'm ironing clothes I do, so it's really important for me to have a separate iron that's water free. Because I don't pre-wash my patchwork fabrics, I don't use steam. And then we will just bring our clapper in and set those. And again, I'll pop a link below to this clapper as well. We had a social on a couple of weeks ago, and one of the ladies, we've got one of these clappers in our classroom, and one of the ladies used our clapper and she said that it was amazing, much better than the clapper she'd got at home. So she upgraded her clapper to one of ours. They are really nice weight, these clappers are, and it really just helps give you a really flat seam. Okay, so we have pressed that. Now what I want to do is I want to get the cutting mat back out now. What I want you to do is I just want you to open that back up, and I want you to put your ruler, the 1/4 inch mark, on your line, and then you're just going to gently trim the excess off, and that's the first half of your flying geese unit. You're going to continue to do that for the other 3 pieces here, and then you're going to get your other squares and you're going to place them on the opposite side of the flying geese unit. So again, matching up the 2 top corners, and you will see that there is this little slither at the bottom, and exactly the same way, but this time we're going to sew to the right of the line. So as I said earlier on, we're always sewing to the side of the line that we're going to trim off. So that's the rule of thumb. And the idea is, because you're sewing slightly scant of the line, when you fold it back, it's going to give you that perfect coverage for this area here. If you sewed on the line, sometimes it's just not enough and you end up a little bit short, and it just means your block overall is going to end up too small. So just taking the time to draw that line and to sew just to the side of the line that we're going to trim off is going to make your blocks stay nice and square and exactly the size that they should be. So I'll go ahead and I will get these trimmed up, and I will sew down that line as we did before. So just ironing those open as we did with the last ones. Just be careful not to stretch them at this point because we have sewn down the bias line. So always set the seam first, so a little bit of heat, and then I open it up from there. So can you see, because I've not put the clapper on these yet, that that side is slightly springier than this one? This one's nice and flat because it's not had that clapper on it yet. I will just lay these out a bit more heat through all of them, make those lay flat, and bring the clapper back in. Can you see they're laying much flatter now? So exactly the same way as we did before, we're just going to open this up and trim off this side. So put your 1/4 inch line on that pencil line that you've drawn, trim off the excess, and then we're ready to square up our flying geese units. So the instructions are really detailed in this section. So we've got clear, we're going to cut 2.5 inches either side of that centre, and then when we square up this here, we're going to be just leaving a 1/4 inch from that point. I also like to use the diagonal that's on this squared ruler here to make sure that I'm staying nice and square. So we're going to go 2.5 inch point. So that's the 2.5 inch point of the ruler, right at the tip, the white tip of that block, with the angle coming straight down there, and then trim off that little bit. And then coming along this way, we know that this line is straight now, so we're going to put the 5 inch line on the end of that block, and just slightly trim off the bit that is there as well. Now what we also need to do is we need to put our 1/4 inch line exactly on that point, making sure that you've got one of the edges that you've just squared up on a line so that you know that you are staying straight. So keep that lined up along here and the 1/4 inch point there, and trim off. and then we're just going to flip that round because this piece needs to be squared up to 3 inches in height. So then we're just going to pop the ruler on the 3-inch mark at this side and trim off anything that's left on this side, and it should be marginal. There we go. So can you see when we started with block 1 earlier on, we'd got a lot more trimming off, and now we've really reduced that down because you should be getting much better at your cutting and your sewing. So continue to do that for the other 3 units, and then we're going to start to piece our block together. Now that we've got our flying geeses beautifully squared up, we're going to grab in our other pieces and we're going to start to construct this block. So we're going to start with a dark square in the middle, and we're going to pop each one of our light squares in each corner, and then we're going to place our flying geese units into each space. And that's what our block should look like. So we're going to split this into 3 rows, so 1 row, 2 row, 3 rows. So we're going to start by sewing these to the top flying geese unit. We're going to sew 2 flying geese unit to our square, and then 2 more squares to this flying geese unit. So when you place these on, we're going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam. And if you sew with your flying geese unit on the top, when you sew down with a 1/4 inch seam, you will be able to see your stitch line, so you can make sure that you're not going to take the point off. So pop those together, sew down the line. I'll jump over to the sewing machine now and I will get mine sewn together. Okay, so I've popped my 1/4 inch foot back onto my sewing machine now because we're going to be sewing these seams with a 1/4 inch. Now we've sewn those, we're going to open them out, and we should have perfect points because we used that tip of making sure that they were on the top when we sewed down. So we're going to set these seams first, and then we're going to press them. So I'm going to get you to press the seam of the centre block to the centre square. Make sure that's nice and flat. Perfect. So, and because we've pressed those seams to the centre, for these top ones and the bottom one, we need to press the seam outwards to our smaller squares. So again, set the seam, pressing the seam allowance to the squares on the outside, and by doing this you're going to be able to nest those seams and again get perfect points on your corners. So now we're going to place this one here, and because we've pressed the seams in opposite directions, those points are going to nest beautifully, and we will sew down one end, and then we will do exactly the same with this one down this end. So again, when we come to this section here, we're sewing with this side up so we can make sure that we don't sew through that point and make sure we achieve a perfect point. So exactly the same as before. Set the seam just by giving a little heat. So in our classes we call this magic ironing. If something's not quite sitting right, give it a little iron. And then I'm just going to press those seams. I'm going to press them inwards. And the same again on this side. Because we've got this arrow here, it naturally wants to go inwards. So just press it the way the fabric wants to be pressed at this stage, because we've not got any more nesting to do. Turn it round. I'm going to give it another good press from the front. It's all in the pressing with patchwork. Your blocks have got to be beautifully flat. If you find that your block comes up a bit small, it might be, so can you see there's that little lump? it needs to be completely flat. So it might be in your ironing. Really give that a good press. And take that heat out with that clapper and set those. They are big bouncy seams, so they need that clapper on there to get you that perfectly flat block. So when we're happy that that is nice and flat, we now just need to give your block an overall square down. So if you've got one of these 9.5 inch rulers, it's absolutely perfect. So I've gone ahead and I have got the other samples sewn up so you can see them in different fabrics. So this is the one that we sewed up together in the Tilda Woodland, and then I've also made one in bright fabrics, which is Alison Glass, and then I've also sewn one up in traditional fabrics. So you can see that this block works really well in a variety of different fabrics. I absolutely love this block as a standalone block. All I would do is I would cut some sashing 2.5 to 3 inches to put between each block that matches your background colour, and then I would do the stars in a variety of different colours. So if I was doing the traditional, I would use some of Adita's different fabrics and make a quilt full of stars, just making the stars in different prints as you go. I hope you've really enjoyed sewing that variable star block with me. It is such a fun, versatile block. I can't wait to see your blocks and indeed your quilt if you decide to make a full project with this month's block. Please do hit the like button, it really helps YouTube to share this video to more people, and don't forget to subscribe to get notified the next time a new video goes live. Until next time, keep sewing. Bye!